So, John, the next question is Elizabeth Cantu. Elizabeth asked the question.
That's a nice name. Cantu?
Cantu.
Is it like C-A-N-T-O?
It's C-A-N-T-U. Cantu.
Cantu, yeah.
But I like it. Can do, Cantu. I like that.
Yeah.
How can I use my knowledge in emergency room nursing and coaching to rise above helping my nurses not just know but be beyond this pandemic? Let me re-ask that question. I'm sorry. How can she's got a lot of nurses there.
Sure.
How can she lift their vision? They're caught up in the middle, and
Sure.
sounds like she's one of the nurses, and she's trying to lift the level to see something bigger than the pandemic.
Well, I think sometimes, it's hard too when you're in the middle of a crisis. I mean, when I think of like an ER room, when you're dealing with a lot of people that are, some of it will be life and death, I think you do get immersed in it, and I think that it is very easy to be caught up in the moment and the emergency of that moment. I think that you do. I think you do two things. One is during the emergency of the moment, your behavior should be lifting people up. Mm-hmm. Okay, not your words, your behavior. I think in between the crisis moments is where you begin to perhaps share or talk to them about how it could be, or find one of them that really would be doing well in that moment, and then compliment them on that process. But I think sometimes during difficulties, you don't have leadership teaching moments as far as what you say. You have leadership action moments, what you do, and let them see you have a spirit of encouragement and. Let them visualize what you want them to possess, because basically people do what people see, not what they hear.
Boy, leadership action moments. Boy, Elizabeth, I hope that helped you. That definitely helped me. Next question is from Deborah Marshall. Deborah, I love what you're doing with Missouri Life Magazine. She leads the sales and marketing of Missouri Life Magazine. Here's her question. What is the one or several mistakes that businesses make during a crisis?
Well, I think, and when you ask about businesses, I think it's true with business. I think it's true with humans. In a business perspective, I think one of the challenging things is to put people first when you know you're going to get financially hit, because you have a business to make some money, to have a good bottom line. Well, this isn't helping the bottom line. And so I think that the leader is wrestling constantly between what's best for the business and what's best for the people. Now, here's what I do believe. I believe that what's sometimes best for the people is not best for the business.
Right.
So, and I think that's where the values come in. If I value my business and the money more than I do the people, then guess what kind of a decision I'm going to make? I'm going to put the business first. So here's what I say. Put people first. You may take a financial hit for that, but when you walk down the street and you look at them, you can look at them in the eye, and you can have the integrity of knowing, okay, I lost a lot of money, but I treated you right.
Wow.
I think think about it. You have to live with yourself. And if you have to live with yourself, you really want to make sure that you always put the people first. I think that's the right thing to do. I think that's always in a business.
Yeah.
And then you have these huge issues that you have to deal with of letting people go. I mean, a lot of times you're letting really great people go because the business can't sustain it right now at this time, or you're putting them on some kind of leave or furlough. And let me tell you something, that should be very hurtful to the leader.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever I see a leader flippantly cut people or let them go, I said, wow, I don't think you love the people. You may love the business, but I'm not sure you love the people. And I tell leaders all the time, when you stop loving people, quit leading them. Because when you stop loving them, Mark, you know what you start doing? You start manipulating them. And that's always wrong.
That's exactly right. You know, I had a friend call me, Ricky, called me last week, has 2,000 employees. The next day, he was going to have to let 500 of them go.
Wow.
25%.
Horrible.
And he said, Mark, do you have some coaches that can come in and help this leadership team cope with how they're going to deal with letting some people go at this point. And one is, I thought it was a big statement of him. The people that are staying, he's working to get them some support, somebody to work with, somebody to think with.
Well, I think that's really
But it goes to this thing. We've got to social distance. John and I are social distancing today. But you can't relationally distance.
No.
We've got to find people that'll walk with us. And John, you are helping me tremendously. You're on camera, you're helping the world. Off camera, you're helping me. I'm leading in a way that I've never led before.
No, you haven't been there before.
In fact, that goes to the next question. Watch this. It's from Kamiko. And I love this question. This just came in. Kamiko, thank you for asking this. What advice would you give to your younger self about crisis and adversity? Let's say you were 20 years younger, maybe me, John. What advice would you give me? I mean, your younger self.
I've got a great smart aleck answer for that. Because what advice would I give to my younger self? I would give my younger self the advice of listening to the older self. I would just say, hey, young John, listen to old John. He's been through a few battles and through wars. It's a great question. It deserves better than a kind of flippant, funny answer. and the fact, here's what I do believe, though. When I was a young leader, I wish I would have spent more time with people that were more experienced and successful. I did good, but I didn't do great.
Yeah.
Let's just put it this way: I could have done a lot better, Mark. And it's not. I'm not putting a premium on old age or even experience, because there's some fantastic things that youth bring you as far as energy and risk and things. So it's not like experienced people have it over inexperienced people, but they have, for sure, if they're successful. Now, I'm talking about only successful people. I'm not talking about old people, and not talking about people who worked all their life. I'm talking about people who've worked all their life and they're successful. Here's what I know. Here's what I know. The questions you have for someone older that's experienced and successful, they've experienced the question you're going to ask. Oh. Now, that's huge. There's one thing for me to know how to answer your question, and there's another thing for me to have experienced your question.
Wow.
And the difference is, if I've experienced your question, I can give you wisdom, especially if I was teachable and successful. If I answer your question without the experience, I can just give you a good answer. But what you're really needing during a crisis is wisdom, not just a good answer. In fact, I tell young people, you already have a good answer, you just don't have wisdom going with it.
Yeah.
So you're a little unarmed. You know what is right, but you don't know why it's right, how it's right, when it's right. It's the experience that gives you that outer coating that makes you really solid.
You know what I love about that answer, John, is just a few days ago, I asked John a question, something about how to deal with something in the crisis. Do we make a decision now? Do we wait? Mm-hmm. And John, you said, very rarely do you say this to me, and hear me all the way out here. You said, man, Mark, I don't know. I've never led in this kind of a time. But then very quickly, it gave me comfort. You know what? I'm leading in unprecedented times, and my mentor, 20 years my senior, doesn't know either. I mean, he experiences, I don't know, but then very quickly went, but let me tell you what we did when 9/11 hit. Let me tell you when my ISS company, a stewardship company that John had that's raised $4 billion for nonprofits, let me tell you what we did during that time. Yeah. So asking somebody, and let me get the name again, Kamiko, asking somebody or getting somebody that has more experience, that has done something, is very good. They may not have led here, or they may not have led exactly in your situation, but they can give you experience based on another time that reminds a lesson in how you walk through it.
That's very insightful, and it's very good, Mark. And I would just say this. When I give Mark my mentoring or my experienced answers, I then let him make that decision. Mm. I think the trouble that we older people get into is when people ask for advice, we want to control. And I've never had you come and say, John, could you control my life for me? You've asked for advice. There's a difference.
Yeah.
And advice means I give you my best thoughts, my best shots, my best wisdom. But then you've got to go make that decision.
Yep.
Because how are you going to get the experience if you don't go make that decision on your own? So I think that as an older person, a mentor or whatever, I have to always remember what my place is. My place is to give you everything I can give you, the very best that I can give you. But at the end of that, then bless you and say, now it's yours. You become a better leader by making the decision. You don't become a better leader by me controlling you.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of us young leaders, if you'll allow me to call myself young, I don't think I qualify for that anymore. But just
in
for
my
the
eyes, you qualify.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Say more.
You look awfully young to me.
But for those of us,
Too young.
those of us that are really working hard to lead, and I've had some brand new opportunities to lead in January, only 6 weeks later to be hit with the coronavirus that's becoming the corona financial virus as well. And I'll tell you this is what I've told you, John, and I want to encourage some of you that are leading and wanting to lead. Lead through this. Lead through this. The moral authority of the previous generation came when they led through difficult times that they had never led before. And John, I want 6 months a year. I don't know how long this is going to be, but I want 6 months or a year for you to go, wow, Mark's a great leader. I picked him. I like him. Man, he gained moral authority in this one.
Yeah,
that's my commitment to you.
Well, you're going to do that. That's going to happen to you. And you can't get moral authority in a classroom. You don't get moral authority through knowledge. You don't get moral authority through position or title. You get moral authority by taking people through a leadership crisis successfully. And you're going to get that. But what I think I want the listeners to hear right now is that that you and I have high odds of losing millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. Okay? You just need to hear that, okay? And yet, we're still thinking of the people first. We're still keeping our values. We're still thinking clearly. We still have a real sense of peace. And we don't know the outcome. And I think that's powerful. That's where you get moral authority. Yep. On the back end, everybody can brag and lie. But in the middle, there's no bragging and lying here. This thing this thing could put you under. This thing could put me. Who knows where it's all going to go. But can I tell you something? There's an expression that Alan Malawi taught me, who was that great leader at Ford Motor Company when he turned that around, and that when things would go that he didn't always like or just challenges he had to make. I loved his expression when he just always said, "It's okay."
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yep,
it's okay. And all he was saying is, "I'll figure it out. There's always an answer. Don't have it now, but it's okay." And what I want you to see about this is that when you have that sense of sense that there is an answer, and you have that sense of confidence within yourself, what that means is it really works in the bad times. See, don't miss this.
That's right.
Don't miss this. Everybody's secure when everything's going their way and confident when everything. But we're telling you right now, I feel secure. I feel confident. I feel confident. I'm going to lose some money, but I feel confident that there's still an answer, and there's a way that we're going to find the answer. And so it's okay. And I want you to see that. Enough about our situation. Let's get back on your situation.
Well, let's address the question from Kruanal Patel. He says, "What message?" Well, by the way, he said, "Thank you so much for the last 3 days. They were a difference maker for him."
I'm glad to help you.
What message, leadership lesson can you give for people who are on the front line of this crisis? He said, "This is a very challenging time for leaders in healthcare." And so what message would you give to the people that are watching today on the front line?
First of all, I think some of the new heroes, Mark, that are rising in this crisis are the healthcare people.
Yeah.
When I see them with the long hours they're putting in, the danger they're putting their own lives in, all that they have to wear. I mean, can you imagine all day long having all to carry? It's you make us all proud, and your commitment and dedication to serving others and putting people first is just absolutely huge. So I know we maybe are talking specifically about healthcare, but here's what I want you to hear. I think that in a leader's life, I don't expect this to be where you are now. I expect this to be perhaps to a level you can get to in time. But I think that when a leader can say, I don't have to survive. I think there's great strength there. I think there's something beautiful about a person who is committed to their principles and values to the place that they can look at you and say, well, I may lose everything I have.
Wow.
But it's okay because, okay, just think about it for a moment. Could there be a higher calling for somebody in health to save another person's life and be risking their own? To me, that's a beautiful thing. That shares what kind of a quality of person that you really are, that you do put other people first and you do serve others first. And I think that's just a beautiful thing. And in my life as a leader, I can remember very well, Mark, in my 40s, pretty much coming to the place where I didn't have to survive. I said, okay, I know who I am, I know what my mission is, I know what my calling is. I'm good. And I think there's an incredible amount of moral strength when you're that way. I mean, what are you going to do with a person like that?
Yeah.
You're just going to admire them because they're saying, it's okay, this is my calling, this is my mission, and I'm going to do what I need to do.
You know, in the leadership perspective there, John, is I think about 9/11, and this is not a political statement, but my greatest memory of George W. Bush and his presidency was just 2 days after 9/11, being right there with all the workers.
Sure, that was
and
beautiful.
saying, we will beat this together. My greatest memory of you in leadership, by the way, is the last 3 days when we shut our event down, and yet you found a way to get into a studio and still have a voice, a leadership voice. And when 9/11 hit, you had a big a national event going on, and you changed the whole direction.
Sure.
By the way, raised $6.7 million to send to the victims of New York. But what does leaders do? Front line or not front line? They get to the front line. Get to the front line.
Yeah.
Make yourself relevant to the crisis.
Yeah,
Make yourself relevant. They're making us go on quarantine. So the biggest challenge is how do I go in quarantine and stay relevant and stay on the front line? Yeah. That's my biggest leadership challenge. And what I've seen from you is leaders get to the front line. So guess what, health leaders? You're on the front line exactly where leaders want to be in times of crisis.
You know, let them see you. They may not always hear you, but let them see you.
Yeah. Let's ask this question from Catherine. She's from Calgary, Canada. She says, my question is this: having learned from you that we are to develop a positive life stance, feed our faith, starve our fears, and that this time of adversity will make us relatable to others, how do we now focus on others? We've been focused on ourselves, but whether it's family, friends, coworkers, neighbors, customers, how do we help them cope and see the opportunity of advantage in adversity?
Well, I think this is, by the way, I enjoy Calgary a lot. I remember taking my family up to the Calgary Stampede one year. That was fun. I think leaders, again, it's all about values. If people truly are first in your life and you truly are intentional in adding value to them, then when the crisis comes, you just have a greater opportunity to do it to more people. But nothing really changes. You see, the crisis may change your circumstances, but it doesn't change your values. Mm-hmm. And so what I would say to you is if you added value and put people first in good times, you'll do the same thing in a crisis. But I'll be honest with you, if you put yourself first in good time, you probably in bad times will be looking for the exit door yourself. And every man for themselves, every person for themselves. So I here, values show up the most during the most difficult times because that's where your values are tested.
Yeah.
Because most of the time your values aren't tested. But during difficult times, all of a sudden the things that you live for and believe in, convictions, principles in your life, they start showing up pretty quick.
Isn't it? Don't let me misquote you here, but don't you say that crisis or difficult times doesn't make a leader; it reveals a leader? It
reveals a leader. Yeah, it doesn't make it.
Yeah.
You're already made. It's like toothpaste. Whatever's inside of you, it just squeezes out. Trust me.
Hey, Jacqueline Whelan, she said, I sit on the board of education, and I believe we will see significant transformation to our public education systems moving forward. Based on your experience, based on conversations and wisdom, based on conversation you're having and wisdom, what are the significant shifts that educational leaders should be incorporating?
Well, I think you're doing it right now. You send them home and they're doing online courses. And I think that there's going to be a lot of shift in education. I just have a sense, of course, I mean, trust me, I'm not a prophet here, but I just have a sense that online, if people do online classes for a period of time, I think it's going to change the way that some kids want to be educated.
Yeah.
I just think that it's going to rapidly increase online learning. And I think that education, healthcare, all of us, one of the things a crisis does is a crisis just kind of gets rid of the stuff. It's kind of like if you move from home to home, they say, what is it? 3 moves. Maybe it was 3 moves is like a house fire. You know, I mean, if you move about 3 times, you get rid of all the stuff that's not necessary, or you have a house fire and you get rid of all the stuff that's not necessary. I think a crisis is like a house fire. It really and when you lose some things, you look back at some of them and you say, you know what, that wasn't that important anyway. I couldn't do without that. And I think in education, there's going to be some major shifts. But most of us don't make changes until we have to, and this crisis makes us have to. So we'll make the changes. It would be nice if we made them on the front end, but we're going to make them. I just think if you make the changes on the front end, change is a little bit more successful than it is on back end. It's surely it's less expensive on the front end than the back end.
Yeah, I love this question by Valerie, John. It just came in just now. What is the best advice you can give us on reaching out to our community and to small businesses around us to help them through this?
It's a great question. And the reason I love that question is because you're talking about people who live right where you are. And I'm writing a book right now. In fact, I'm going to have a lot of time to write this book now because of all the stuff all the stuff that's been burned out of my life. But I'm writing a book called Change Your World, and it's about community transformation and how to be a positive influence and transformational person in your community. And I would say 3 things to you right now. One is use the influence with the people that you have. In other words, that's where your greatest effect is going to be. I would say number 2 is help them in the area of the things that you're good at. What are your strengths? Help people in your strengths, because that's where you really kind of lift them the most. And number 3 is be available. Be available. There's something about just people knowing people aren't looking for answers. It's like I tell people all the time, where when people are going through a heavy time in their life, they're not wanting wisdom from you when you go to see them. They just want care.
Oh, well.
They don't want wisdom. You know what? I've never seen a distressed person taking notes yet.
Yeah.
And so they just, sometimes people say, well, I've just had a friend be in a major accident. I don't know what to say or what. I said, you don't have to know what to say. They're not looking for knowledge now. They're looking for care. And so I think that what you do is you show care, show a lot of care and concern. And those 3 things will help you.
Yeah, and Valerie, what I'd say to you and everybody watching, John, they're giving me numbers. We've got thousands and thousands watching us right now. I'd say 2 things. One would be agreeing with John. Find somebody to care with you. Get a community. And again, honor social distancing, but there's other ways like this to create care. In fact, what we did, one of the additional outcomes or value adds that we did with the last 3 days is we equipped all of our John Maxwell Team members, anybody that's been certified, mentored, spent time with John, we're giving them a mastermind on what John taught on Sunday, leading through crisis. And I would challenge you, go to johnmaxwellgroup.com and find a coach near you. They're in business, they're small business owners, but they're also in the business of caring. We've taught, one of our DNA culture characteristics is we care for people. We add value to people because we value people. Go to johnmaxwellgroup.com and find one of these coaches that will go through a 8-week mastermind with you on what John's talking about. They'll create a virtual environment, do it for you and your team. Secondly, maybe you want to be a team member. Maybe you say, man, John, you've kind of made me want to be a carrier of hope. I want to be a flame carrier of leading through crisis. And maybe you'd like to join our team, and you can go to johnmaxwellteam.com and find information out there about joining John's 33,000 coaches in 170 countries. We'd love to have you. We need some more carriers of hope that can help us now. So hopefully those two things, John.
Those are really good. Let me just say, as you were talking there, Mark, something really came to my mind. I think hopefully it'll be helpful to you, because we're asking, what can we do? What can we do? Make a decision and take action on doing what you know and can right now. Now listen to me very carefully. So, when we said we can't have the conference in Orlando with the JMT, it's not going to happen. So how can we help people? Well, now watch how this happens. So we made a commitment. We said, okay, well, let's go online to our coaches and let's take care of our 33,000 coaches. Let's go online there. Let's start there. So now we've made a decision to take action. Now listen to me very carefully. Creativity comes to you when you're taking action. Not when you're thinking. Don't miss this. So once we started taking action, then the team said, and when I say the team, I'm saying the team because I'm not really sure whose idea it was, but it came from one of our team members, maybe you, Mark, probably you're the leader, but the point being, somebody said, well, then I'll tell you what, let's put John out to everybody. Why should we just... we've got more than John Maxwell team members that want to have help during this time. So let's just make it available to everybody. And so almost 1 million people benefited from that. But now watch how these ideas come. So now I'm in here pitching and helping. And I'm thinking, you know what? We do Minute with Maxwell, but I need to get specific and give you some statements of strength. So I said, well, I'll do 30. So now all this is coming to us while we're working, while we're taking action. Remember, it all comes to you when you're taking action. It doesn't come to you when you're sitting on your butt. We're supposed to leave footprints in the sand of time, not butt prints in the sand of time. So I got into 30, and all of a sudden I thought, you know what? Wow, shoot, we could do 60. And then Mark said, well, John, after the 3 lectures, could we do a Q&A while we're doing? Now, all the stuff that's happening is happening while we're happening.
That's right.
What part of this are we missing? If we don't happen, it doesn't happen. Not even sure that'll stand up as a phrase, but I like it.
I like it.
But do you see what I'm saying? So I run into people all the time, and they're saying, well, I haven't done anything yet because I'm not sure what to do. Who said you had to be sure what to do? Just do something that in your heart helps people. Trust me, once you start doing something, the insight, the thoughts, the ideas, the creativity, the experiences, the opportunity, they'll come to you, but they come to you when you're taking action. So hopefully that helps you, because I can promise you there's thousands of you right now and you're saying, what can I do? Do it. Just, you say, what can I do? Do it. Well, do what? I don't know. What's on your heart right now? What is it? A phone call? A text? I don't know. But start doing something, and then all of a sudden, opportunities will come your way. Trust me.
I'm going to butcher this. You recommended a book that I read. We're people of faith. This book may not impact you if you're not, and that's okay. But you told me this year I needed to read Spiritual Leadership. So March is my month to read spiritual leadership, and I was reading yesterday on the essentials of spiritual leadership.
Yeah.
And
J. Oswald Sanders.
Yes, J. Oswald Sanders. I'm going to get this wrong, but he was talking about how a leader has to have vision and courage. That's 2 essentials. And he said, you know, a follower sits and waits, and the greatest perplexity for a follower is what is the right thing to do?
This is so good.
I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss
you're
it.
doing
Yeah,
good.
it's over there. I could go get it. But
you're in clover.
He said the greatest challenge for a follower is, can I make the right decision? Can I make the right decision? The greatest challenge for a leader in crisis is being confident that you made a decision that you can live with. And so many times, and I butchered that, but so many times we spend so much time waiting for the right decision or the perfect decision to come, rather than making a decision and living with the consequences of the decision we made. He said the greatest challenge for a leader is to be confident in living with the consequences of your decision, not in waiting to make the right decision.
And the answer to that, because that was a book that greatly impacted my life, and the answer to that, on being confident that you made the right decision, I can help you right now. I can cut this to a chase and help everybody. You always make the right decision when you put the people first. End of story. I can tell you stories of where I put myself first and had conflict about it. But I've never had conflict. And again, I'm not telling you when you put your people first that all things are going to go well. But when you put your people first, you can live with yourself. I don't have to have a lot of money to live with myself, but I do have to treat people right to live with myself.